excited to see everyone gathered here today to celebrate this collection of short stories, A Fallen Leaf. This anthological presentation is the joint effort of 15 writers who wrote about their interpretation of the word fall, which was a contest that we launched in September 2019. Over a period of 3 months, we received about 32 stories, of which these 15 made the cut. After due deliberations, multiple editing sessions, we sought the help of half-baked beans to get this published. We thank the publishers for being a part of our journey. To begin with, let me just introduce our special guest of the evening, Mr. Anirban Bhattacharya, who is basically a multifaceted personality and has already made his name in the field of TV production, comedy, music, and writing. As a writer, his debut book, The Deadly Dozen, continues to grab the attention of thriller lovers all over the world. After achieving various milestones, the book continues to climb charts even after 1 year of its publication. When we invited Anirban to grace this occasion, we were so delighted that he agreed readily and immediately. Let me now move the spotlight to him so that he can share a few words with us. Anirban?
Yeah, thank you so much for making me a part of this very historic occasion. All of you are probably first-time writers, and it's great to be the one. At the start of a marathon race, you have the 3, 2, 1, go, and you flag off the race. So this is the race to your writing careers, which has just been flagged off. So it's fantastic. It's writing and reading are two treasures that every child must be taught. And then inculcated, even at an adult age. So it's fabulous to see so many of you taking the effort to write and then falling in love with reading and writing. So it's fantastic. All the very best to you on your writing career. Penmancy, I share a special place in my heart for Kajal and for Penmancy, because I remember when I started off my writing journey, it was my first book. Though I had made somewhat of a name in the television world, by co-creating a show called Savdhan India and working with Channel V and all of that. But writing was a new thing for me. It was a completely new world, universe. So when I wrote my book, it got published by Penguin. I'm very blessed to have Penguin and the Book Bakers as my literary agent. And then I started reaching out to people. So like a father who reaches out, for their son, कि मुझे admission मिलेगा क्या? आपके school में admission मिलेगा क्या? So I discovered Penmancy on Facebook, and then I just wrote off a, message to Penmancy, and they got back immediately. And they said, of course, we will do an interview with you, and we'll do a video chat, and we'll put it up on Facebook. So, I understand the insecurity of a first-time writer, the loneliness, also the efforts that need to be made for the story to be heard or read by the public. I understand completely. And so when Penmancy got back without, a beat, I was very overwhelmed. Because, for a first-time writer to get an opportunity to share his or her work with the world is a blessing, and that's in the first place. And then secondly, when you have people who are willing to hold your hand and support you on this journey and help you to promote the book, or literally promote your child, and saying ki हाँ भाई चलो मेरे college में या मेरे school में admission मिल जाएगा तुम्हारे बच्चे को. So I have a very special I hold a very special place in my heart for Penmancy. So when Kajal asked me, will you do it without a hitch? I said, yes, of course. One, because it's Penmancy, and two, because it's first-time writers who need all the help and encouragement and whatever it takes, If you've seen a movie called Aks, which had Amitabh Bachchan and Manoj Bajpayee. So Manoj Bajpayee has a very famous dialogue. He says, Nimit matra hu. So we are all just grains of sand, in time at the end of the day. If we don't hold each other, help each other, then what was our life worth living for? Bahut gyan de diya. So congratulations on your book. It's a beautiful book. Thank you for having me, Kajal.
Thank you so much, Anirban. It is really to now just go ahead and introduce our writers who have been through this journey with us. Sharanya Mishra, who is a software engineer by profession and a voracious reader by passion. She often, with time, she has acquired skills, and now she quills and acknowledges the other facets of her life, being a new mother, a diehard foodie, a travel enthusiast, a fierce feminist, and an emotional writer, she calls herself. She's been published in Women's Web Anthology previously, which is called No Apologies, issue 5 of the Unbound e-magazine, and Literature's Light Poetry Anthology, Poems for 30 Best Poets. She is also recipient of the Women's Web Orange Flower Award for Social Impact. She was a winner, Popular Choice 2018. She is an author on Women's Web and Monpresso also, and she shares her thoughts on her personal blog. I would like to invite Sharanya to just speak a little bit about her story, perhaps.
Hi, Kajal. Thank you for having me here. Thank you, Ram. Thank you, Anirban, for your very encouraging words. Kajal, am I audible?
Yes.
Is it all okay?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. So if it's okay, I would like to begin with just a few lines from my story. There is the crispness in the air, and every now and then the wind blows our way, making us rise in a swirl before settling back. I think back to my travels and imagine what the people I saw are up to now. I have left them behind, but the colors of their stories have painted me in the hues of love, loss, and hope. I am now a living mosaic on the garden floor. So my story, A Mosaic on the Garden Floor, is basically, you can call it an amalgamation of 4 sub-stories. I think writing to me is so much about being able to paint my emotions through words. And I think I have tried my best to do that with my story as well. This theme of fall of this anthology had a huge connect with me because it took me back instantly to my time in the UK. When autumn was my favorite season there. It would just be such a vibrant time with people everywhere, the chill, crispy air, and the beautiful leaves scattered everywhere, the orange, red hues. So it was just an environment of positivity, and I think that's why there's a thread of hope that runs through all of my stories as well. And I do hope that the readers experience this roller coaster of emotions that I went through when I put my heart into this story. And thank you, everyone. And thank you, Penmancy, for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Sharanya. It indeed is a very, very lovely story. I'd also like to go ahead and introduce Sitaram Jayakumar. He's an information technology professional who works in the IT field and has been working in the IT field for the past 27 years. His foray into writing has an interesting beginning. In the year 2017, one of his colleagues at the office suggested that he present a poem as a part of the organization's founding day function. Though reluctant, he decided to give it a go just for the sake of it. He wrote a poem inspired by his mischievous 11-year-old daughter, and the poem was a big hit at the function. And he started his blog, Jazz Jotting, from there, and posted a few poems which were well received. Soon his poems gave way to articles, and articles were followed by photography. After some time, he took to writing fiction. He is also the author of 2 novellas in the thriller fiction genre, which is 80 Hours to Saving Karen and the Krishanpur Kidnappings. Jaya, would you like to speak about your story?
Thank you so much for the introduction, Kajal. That was quite elaborate. Thank you. And thank you, Anirban, for coming here and encouraging all of us. So let me briefly give you an idea about how this story of mine, Varied Moods, Varied Season, came into being. As soon as I saw the word fall, I made 2 associations in my mind. One was the falling of leaves over from plants and trees over the seasons, spring, summer, autumn, and winter. So I decided, let me write a story where I calibrate the emotions of a man who goes through all these throughout these seasons, that stretches across an year, going through these seasons, where I relate the emotions to the lives of plants. That is, in the spring season, the man is very happy, and in the summer, his happiness fades somewhat. Then, when it comes to autumn, tragedy strikes, and finally, when it is winter, he's a broken man. But I didn't want to leave the story at that point where it is totally in the state of dejection. So it has a redemptive feature. That is, at the end, I tried to introduce a certain kind of revival, leaving the reader with a hope. The story doesn't have it is a very straightforward story. I have not tried to create a complicated plot. More than that, what I have tried to do is to appeal to the reader through emotional depth. That's what I've tried to do. And this actually, as soon as I read the word fall, of course, all these ideas occurred to me, but the story itself as to what exactly happens in the man's life unfolded only when I picked up my laptop and started typing. Now, I'll just briefly read a couple of paragraphs from my book. Look at the garden now. In the months of March, April, and May, the flowers were blooming and the trees were full of leaves. Everything looked rosy and beautiful. The plants were happy. The trees were happy. Springtime is the season of happiness in the lives of plants. Then came the summer, which is hot. Things were not so good, but the leaves are still present in the trees and the flowers do bloom, though not as much as in the spring season. The plants are still happy. Then the months of autumn arrive and things become a little less enjoyable for the plants. They realize that soon the harsh winter will be there and they get ready for the hibernation. Then finally the winter arrives and the trees and the plants shed their leaves to protect themselves. Do you think the story ends there? Do the plants wither and die away? No. The golden months of spring are back again and new leaves are growing. This in short summarizes what I tried to do. I tried to calibrate the life of a man which stretches across a period of 1 year over the 4 seasons. That is, he experiences different moods in different seasons. That's what I tried to do. And this story was written with a lot of enthusiasm because this is the first time I'll have a chance for my story to come out in print. Till now I only published stories in Amazon KDP, and that was a big thing for me. And I really thank Tendency for giving me this opportunity. Thank you very much, Kajal, and thank you, Anirban, for being here. Thank you.
Well, that's a lovely story. It portrays different variations of how the seasons really move and how fall is basically interpreted in various seasons. It's beautifully done. Next on, we'll continue with Srimati though. She holds her master's in social work from Visva Bharati Shantiniketan, and she is a development professional specializing in psychiatric care of differently abled children. Her work hasn't stopped her from exploring other fields though. Years of experience in social and consumer research are also a part of her portfolio. A caregiver to her father who has renal failure and a mother of 2, she is passionate about traveling and writing. When she finds the time, she writes. Writing is her catharsis. Srimati, would you like to make a few words?
Yeah, sure. Hi.
Srimati, just before you begin, one of my favorite childhood memories, I think when I must have been about 4 years old, when I visited Shantiniketan. Like a good Bengalis have 3 or 4 meccas that we go to. Bengalis have to go there. One is Darjeeling. You have to go there, okay? And it's like a pilgrimage. Darjeeling, Shantiniketan, Puri. Puri is the other one, and Digha.
Yeah.
These 4 are like the Char Dhams of Bengalis.
Yeah,
we have to go there. So I have very good memories of Shantiniketan. Sorry for interrupting, just sort of sharing that. Go ahead.
And like a true Bengali, I've written about Durga Puja here. The first, when it was announced, when Kajal announced that the topic is fall, I was coincidentally visiting Kumartuli. That's a small pocket in Calcutta where the idols are made. So, I had to write about Durga Puja and connect it to fall. Now, Durga Puja happens during autumn, and that is how the association was made. So, what I've written about here is about a small village set in the, where Durga Puja is happening for the couple of years there for a very long time, and it's a very rural setting. I'll read it out from the book as well. See, a family was known for the grand Durga Puja, which was celebrated every fall with much pomp and show. People came from far and wide to witness the 10-day-long festival. The idol would be made within our premises by Raja Sahib's favorite sculptor Gopal. He would sit and meditate in the courtyard, thinking of the shape the Devi would take that year. Everyone said he had mystical powers. The goddess would reveal her form through dreams. Accordingly, he would start building it. So that's basically the premise. Now what happens is one particular year, the goddess doesn't appear to him and the idol remains unfinished. So that is where the whole mystery lies. And I would invite my readers to read the story, The Torch Bearer, and unravel it. So that's all.
All right, that's wonderful, Srimati. It's something Sarvjot is. She inherited her love for literature and writing from her parents. Writing is a medium she chooses for expressing dreams and desires constructively. She feels that words are most powerful if one decides to put a point across. That is what drives her, because it is words that impact, that fulfill, and yet keep pushing her towards achieving more. Sarvjot, would you like to speak a few words about your story also?
Yeah, sure. Good evening, everyone. And I feel honored that I'm on this platform, sharing the platform with such wonderful writers, Anirban. And my contribution to this anthology was a story titled The Misfit. So when I was thinking about what to write, and just to give a background, actually, when I say I inherited it from my parents, because both my parents were fond of writing, but they were diametrically opposite. My father writes Punjabi poetry and my mother writes Hindi philosophy kind, very serious and women issues and all that. So I fell in between somewhere probably. I don't write poetry though, but I kind of feel good writing. I was an HR professional, but I gave up working and I moved towards this side, which I enjoyed more. So in my story, I kind of highlight the issues which are faced by people who are overweight. And actually, when I was thinking about what to write, I wanted to do something on the humor, with a little bit of humor in it. And I knew that a lot of stories would come where they would mostly talk about seasons and relate it to the theme. So I was following a series on Netflix or somewhere, and there was this girl who's overweight and she's struggling with her family, and her family is trying to, make her feel accepted. So that kind of struck a chord, and then was born my protagonist, Sheena, in the story, whom I have portrayed as a very happy-go-lucky woman. And I was very sure that I don't want to turn the story into a melodrama, where that girl is very sad, that main moti kyun hu, and why can't I be like others. So I wanted to end the story with a lot of positivity. I discussed the various phases in her life and of course her strength, which is in her father. So how he is the one who pushes her. And eventually I was able to come out with an ending where she does not bow down to the societal pressures to, fit into a certain shape or look a certain way. Instead, she gains, she transforms, but in terms of improving her self-esteem, gaining back her confidence, and then living for her dream, which is to study music, because she is a wonderful singer. And somewhere in this, she loses on it because she gets, tied down to what the society wants from her. So that is how my story goes. I'm very thankful. I couldn't have asked for a better platform than Penmanship, because I wrote, and that too it got published, which is something which kind of people really dream about, that especially amateur writers who are writing who've been writing for just about a year. So I feel great. I learn a lot from this platform every single day. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarvjot. It was lovely how your protagonist really took a U-turn in the story, and kind of became an inspiration for many young girls or young women who kind of fall into this trap of body shaming, and then they kind of doubt their self esteem. So it's beautiful. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to Riyanka. Riyanka is an HR professional with a lot of experience in wielding swords in the corporate jungle and juggling a very crazy family consisting of a very busy-looking husband and a naughty kid. She loves traveling, writing poetry, short stories, and is a voracious reader of suspense thrillers.
Hi. Hi, thank you, Kajal. Thank you, Anirban. Thank you, everybody. First of all, I'm very nervous right now, so I don't know what I'm going to blabber. So just bear with me. First of all, when I read about this anthology, which Pen Mansi had, posted about, my first feeling was that that I should come up with a character who is a female character who should be able to speak her mind. So when I excuse me. So when I thought about Priyamvada somehow she symbolizes a lot of women in India. I would like to just read a paragraph which epitomizes what the entire story is about. Yes, please tell me, Queen Mother. That is how he always called her. Priyamvada stared at him for a second and then looked away. Outside her window, the world was going on as usual. The lawnmower was moving around noiselessly while the gardener tended the flower beds. The sun was well above the mountains. She realized it was already mid-morning. I was 18 when I got married into this household 10 years ago. You are a year older than me. I appeared for my college exams when the marriage proposal came. I hailed from a very ordinary family, and a marriage proposal from the palace was not a commonplace event. My family was overjoyed, but soon realized that the proposal was for the king himself. He was 50 years old. Priyamvada turned quiet after that. So this particular paragraph, I think, it sums up the story in some way, as the protagonist, she is suddenly snatched away from her life she has dreamt for herself. Her family is, her family is forced to give her away. And it's kind of, a lot of lot of women, I'm sure, in India or in the world have faced this situation where they are not in control of their destiny anymore, and they are not able to take control of the situation they are in. So what they do is they probably adjust themselves to the situation, and the result is sometimes sometimes people stay in that situation, sometimes they try to come out. In case of Priyamvada, something happened which gave a different turn to her life, and then she decided to take the reins of her life back into her control. And how that happens, and how she reacts to the situation is what the story is about. And I hope people like it. I hope people can give a they can relate to the story, relate to Priyamvada's story. And then at the end, I would like to thank everybody. Thank you so much for this opportunity. So much love. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Riyanka, and thank you for creating such a memorable character as Priyamvada. I think it stays at the top of your memory once you go through that story. She just stays on top of your memory, and that really speaks a lot about your work. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to talk about Shrikant. Dr. Shrikant Singhare mostly keeps running down the busy hospital corridors, trying to balance his life as a junior doctor in this overpopulated nation and his own personal space. If he finds some time, he likes to write or read, but for the latter, he prefers books to ebooks. Photography and strumming the guitar are his other interests. Shrikant, would you like to talk about your story?
Thank you, Kajal. So happy Independence Day, everyone.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Yeah, so this is my third story, actually, which is in print. only this year in January, one of my stories got the first prize in an anthology contest, and another one is Born Too Soon, which is in Amazon still. You might find it there. That was back in college. So as far as this piece goes, it's about a comeback, a recovery, falling down and getting up back on your feet again. So though in this case it takes more than 20 years for our protagonist to do so. So he had a simple dream as a child, and one day an incident takes away his dream, his hope, and his self-esteem is just shattered. And almost 2 decades later, another unfortunate turn of events, makes him face his darkest fears, and now he must make a choice. So, and then gradually he is able to overcome his phobia. So this theme of comebacks and turnarounds and holding your ground against all odds. So this is nothing new. Different people have told the same story in his or her own way. And but what I wanted to point out here as a very subtle thing is that all the good that happens to us, how much of it is actually planned? Now, I just want all of you to reflect on this maybe for a moment. That all the good things, all the little moments of glory, how much of it is actually planned? Not much, right? Either it's purely by accident, or it is just born out of necessity. So I think you just think and obsess about one thing, and then that thing goes horribly wrong. And then you find joy in places that you kind of least expect. So I think in the story, it also is much in the same way. And and he's finally able to pull himself back, and he is able to beat himself. Or should I say he's able to beat his former self. So that's in a way we all are trying to do that, isn't it? Beat our former selves and move on. So that each tomorrow finds us farther than today.
Yeah, so a very peculiar thing which I really kind of observed about Shrikant's story is how this protagonist is really not, he is not fighting the external situation. He's basically fighting his own inner demons. And it is such a beautiful story of courage, basically, because he's been under this spell of the demon for the last 20 years. And just one point of time, he just wants to resurface. And it's this small catalyst of an incident which makes him realize that he has to breathe, over the water and not under. So, it's a beautiful story. Thank you so much, Shrikant. And I hope the readers associate with it and read it and love it just as much as we did. We're going to move on to our next writer. And he's completely vanished from the screen right now, but he's Nilotpal Gohain, and he's a government servant currently serving as assistant registrar of cooperative societies for the government of Assam. He graduated in engineering from Wells University, Chennai, and worked at SAE as a marine engineering for a short stint before moving ashore. In 2015, he joined the government of Assam after a short stint in Canara Bank as probationary officer. Since then, he has been in his current job. He started his literary journey recently after finishing his quest for bread and butter. Many of his poems and short stories have been published in print and e-journals such as News India, Spill Words, Setu the Bilingual, The Hands, Poets India, Youth Ki Awaaz, etc. He loves to give a fictional makeover to real-life incidents, as his Leo instincts of being diligently observant seldom fail him. He believes in perception rather than reality, as one person's truth might be a lie for someone else. When he's not writing, he's usually found in the kitchen trying out the latest recipes he saw on a cooking channel. I think Anirban loves to do that too.
So moving on to my story, before I go to the story, let me tell you about the book I have written. I've written a co-authored book with Half Baked Beans itself. It's called 2035. It's a dystopian novel. It's based on in the year 2035, and it's basically about what happens when internet takes over. So once you read the story, you'll understand if there is no government and multinational companies who provide us internet service, if they take over the world, what will happen and where we will be headed to. That's basically the story. It's an interesting one if you want to pick it up. And I've been working on a true crime story now, and it's also with the book bakers like Anirban. And your Deadly Dozen book is my go-to book because it's
a
dramatized.
Now. It's almost a prototype now.
Exactly, correct. So whenever I want to, look into something, I go to your book, The Deadly Dozen. It's an awesome book.
Thank you. Thank you
so
so
let's
much.
move on to my story. The story is basically dark comedy. I'm not much into all romance and everything. So I basically write dark things. For example, I've written horror, I've written thrillers, and this one was a thriller, 2035. And this is the first time I've tried dark comedy. It's based on a funeral. When a funeral happens, generally we think that funerals are like, everyone will be very gloomy and they'll be thinking about only the dead person, and the situation atmosphere will be all gloomy, but it's not like that. When people attend a funeral, I'm talking about the funeral which happens in the funeral ground, a Hindu funeral where the body is burned. Once the body is put in the pyre and it's lighted in, after that people just talk about random things, and in those random things a lot of jokes and a lot of good things also happen. So I was attending one of those funerals, and one guy was telling me about a story, what happens when 4 drunk guys carry a body for a funeral. They carry a body on a pallet and they're fully drunk, and if you think a little bit, you can interpret how I have interpreted fall on this whole situation. So the story is all about that, and
it did lend us quite a few chuckles.
Thank you, thanks a lot. And once you read the story, you'll understand that funerals are they're okay, they're gloomy for the family, but those who attend, they just grieve for a little bit of time, and then everything is normal. So even in hard times or even in gloomy times, you can find a little bit of happiness in it. That's the basic idea of the story. So you'll like it. So thank you for having me for this anthology, and it's a wonderful anthology. I've written other stories too, and all stories are beautifully written. So, and the book is doing well too. So congratulations to Kajal for that, and congratulations to all of us. And thank you, Anirban, for being here. Thank you.
Thank you, Nilith. Well, that's wonderful. I'm sure people are going to really enjoy the story and enjoy the lovely dark humor that you've actually portrayed in the story. Thank you so much. We're going to now move on to Chandrika. Chandrika is a Bangalore-based freelancer who started her career in teaching profession. She has published more than 200 articles, poems, and short stories. She's had her works published in several online and print media, both national and international publications. Her story is featured in Story Mirror's Book of Love and Story Artisans' Desi Modern Love anthologies. She has been recognized in Short Story Challenge conducted by Penmansi team, Teletale, the Thinking Pen, Pratilipi, Mompresso, Women's Web, Hive, Asian Literary Society. She has been shortlisted thrice in Strand's International Flash Fiction Competition. She has been adjudged first in Word Viewers Drabble Contest 2020 and has been among the featured writers in both Word Viewers and Narrow Roads. Teaching, talking, reading, and storytelling are her other hobbies, and she tries to balance all of that as much as she can.
Thank you, Kajal. Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to start with the short excerpt from my book, from my story, sorry. The house. Many treat me as a mere possession. I am not. I like to be spoken about and loved. I have been through sun and shine, through hail and storm, through rain and calm, through night and day. I thrive on attention, affection, and admiration. I think there's a lot in common between people and houses. Both of us can fall apart if not sufficiently taken care of. I made the house as the central theme in this story, and the house and the garden around, because there's a fairly large family within its roof. And I felt that I wouldn't be able to do justice for the characters, and I wanted the house to sort of observe and speak. And it is more true that women in a marriage sort of is expected to mold herself to the new family, and a man is also on an added stress because he's supposed to not listen to anything the wife says or change in a marriage, lest he is called Joruka Gulam. I think this is there in quite a lot of families. Hopefully it's changing, but it is there, and I wanted to portray that particular aspect. And I have a kind of a utopian idea. I know it is far-fetched. I don't know if it in a house had been bequeathed to me what I would do, but I personally feel any ancestral, very beautiful property which has been God's grace bequeathed to you, I feel if financial strain is not there, maybe to use it as a sort of a reading hub or a restaurant, or there is a beautiful Sundari Silks in Chennai which I always visit. Whether I buy a sari or not, I like to go there just to see the house. And I felt instead of Me Too apartment, the house being pulled down and having one more apartment complex coming up, I thought I feel the house should be left as it is. So I like to combine both of them and I weave the story. And thank you, Penmancy. Actually, Penmancy and I go a little long way, because my very first story there on one of this letter writing contest won its first prize, and last February, as soon as I heard about Penmancy, yes, I had written to Good Housekeeping and New Women, but all of them I have sort of wound up maybe after reading my stories, I don't know. So Penmancy started, and I do write quite a bit, and I also talk a bit, so I'm going to end here. Thank you very much. Thank you, all of you. I enjoyed writing this. Thank you, and hope you all enjoyed reading it also.
Thank you so much, Chandrika. We definitely do like your story a lot. We're going to just move on to MK. MK is there? Okay, yeah, she's here. Okay, MK, I'm just missing out on the introduction, but I do know that MK is an artist. She is also a web developer and a music addict. She's a novice writer and but a qualified architect. She's also a terrific singer, which is not mentioned here, which we know personally. So I welcome you, MK. Please do go ahead and speak a little bit about your story.
Thank you, Kajal. Am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Kajal, and thank you, Anirban, for coming here and encouraging us. And good evening, everybody. Happy Independence Day to you, all of you. When I heard about this theme of fall, first thing that I thought about was how we witness fall in Indian context. So I visualized the trees like neem and palash, and this is how the story started in my mind. And then I finally came up with this story, which is called All for the Blossoms. It is a story about a grandmother who wants to go back to her ancestral house. And I'll just read a small para from it, and this para would give you a good idea about the story. She's talking about her grandparents. Anna, my grandfather himself planted the neem and palash. He always told the children of the house that those trees would be standing till eternity. They are the witness of our childhood games, the exuberance of our youth, and all the good and bad times. Showers of leaves falling from those trees were like showers of Anna's blessings. I want to go and collect those blessings again. So this is the central idea of my story, and I enjoyed writing it, and I was really thrilled and surprised when it actually got selected to be printed. So this is a big new thing that I tried. I have not been writing so much. I just started writing 8 months back. This is the first attempt that I did with Penmancy's contest. So very thankful to you, very thankful to the whole Penmancy team. I hope readers will enjoy reading my story. Thank you so much.
Absolutely sure. We're going to just move on to Kaushik now. Kaushik is a business consultant with MBA from IMT Ghaziabad, having a keen interest in art and history. He likes writing poems and stories and making them into audio stories and films. He is an avid reader of all genres with special interest in historical fiction. Kaushik?
Thanks, Kajal. Thanks the team and Anirban for inviting me, and also for the book. It's doing very great. This book, especially Penmancy, plays a very important role in my pursuing this interest of writing, because last year when I started with its completion, it was among the first of the writings which I sent out to different publishing houses. So after this, I have published several other stories in different publishers and platforms, and have been recently I'll be having my single title called Nataraj, which will be launched soon. So coming back to the story, this story, when I read about that theme that you guys have given, like the fall, so I was that time going through several news articles which were discussing on the Syrian refugees and how these migrations were happening, and how the countries were responding to the migrants who were trying to come into their lands. So I felt really sad about the situation of those people, how they. So I thought of how to create a fictional world where, how to see a family who have suffered such an attack or such a terrorist attack, and when they travel from their own city or country to the other countries, what they face on the journey. So I'll read a small part from my story. Wahid gave a dry smile to Diler and started walking towards home. He could see all doors closing in front of his eyes. Everything that he had built for so many years, every hope he had given to his wife and kids, were getting torn piece by piece in front of his eyes. There was indeed no country for them. They were refugees. If their own motherland had thrown them out, would another country accept them? So these lines speak a lot about the condition of the migrants, the refugees, and their sufferings. So, and if you read the story, image will come in your mind of a real incident that made global news. A kid, that image will come in your mind. If you know about it, you will come to know about this. So I'll request all my readers to read this story, and the book is really beautiful. All the stories in the book is really beautiful. So yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Penmancy and Kajal. Thanks for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Kaushik. Now we're going to move on to Olinda. Olinda Braganza is an engineer by profession and a writer in the shadows. The only way for her to get over her imagination is to pull it out of her head and into her stories. She loves animals and hopes that she can one day contribute to the solution rather than the problem. Olinda, I'd also like to go ahead and tell you, Anirban, that Olinda was a very important part of our editing process for this whole book. She is also instrumental in threading these stories through in a logical continuation, and she introduced each of the stories with a beautiful poem, which is like a gist to that story.
Yes, I read her poem. I read her poems. They're very, very nice.
Yeah.
I have a special appreciation for people who attempt poetry, क्योंकि उनको पता होता है कि साला कोई पढ़ेगा नहीं, अभी क्यों लिख रहा हूँ, you know. Then publishers will say, "Arey, we don't publish poetry." So it's always good. And all of us actually, when we were in college or anything, we always started writing. जब boyfriend और girlfriend ने मार दिया लात, तो पहला poem निकला अंदर से. So it's always, it's good to write poetry. I'm hoping to get my book of poetry published this year. I have sent it out to publishers. It's a collection of 40 poems, and it has photographs by my friend, which much like the poems which bind the stories together, the photographs are the ones that are in between. So let's see. कोई अन्नदाता है क्या publishing world में जो poetry publish करेगा?
I'm sure.
So
I'm sure we'll see. It'll see the light of the day very soon. I'm sure.
Let's see.
So poems really do, play a very important part in this particular book, A Fallen Leaf, because they kind of introduce the story. But when the person is reading those poems, they can't relate to what the story is going to be. But coming back after reading the story, when you get back to the poem again, then you can just kind of, connect and see how beautifully they kind of sum up the whole story of 3,000 plus words in just a few lines and bring out the best of that story. And Olinda has been able to go ahead and beautifully do that for our book. And we really, really do thank you, Olinda. Please do talk a little bit about your story also in this book.
My story. I would like to say that I love to write on dark themes, like say about death, like maybe even protagonizing the antagonist, or even like taking the road less taken. So I kind of, in a way, sometimes I glorify it, like it comes off as that, but it's always fun writing about dark themes. So I'll just read a little from my story, A Tryst with a Twist. It is darkness, a simple concept, yet it is so mysterious. It makes you feel alone, yet its presence around you is comforting. It keeps you blind, yet it somehow clears your vision. It is uncertain, yet never leaving our side. I do not have to give you any more analogies. You get what I'm trying to say. I love darkness and many things that they are associated with, like illuminating lesser light sources in a room that I find comfortable in, staying awake in the night and working the graveyard shift in my high-profile lab as a physicist, dark alleys and lesser public places. You must have gotten an idea for now. What I'm trying to say is that I not only love the literal concept of it, but also how it affects the environment around it. And that sort of environment definitely counts as my comfort zone. So this is part of my story. It doesn't begin with this, but it is just an excerpt that I've taken from it. So thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Olinda. And it's lovely to have you on this anthology, and we look forward to your association for many, many more. We're not going to leave you. All right, I'm going to just go ahead and move on to my better half in Penmancy, Ram. I'm nobody and nothing without her support. She is the backbone of Penmancy. She is the one who conceptualized it. She is the one who, gives me a kick in my hiney every time I'm down and out. And she tells me, chin up and move on. This is not your life. This is just a part of it. So she's like one of the most practical people I have ever met. She takes everything on face value, and she does not make her own worlds about it. So everything that you see about her is right here that you see in this small little frame where you can see her face, bright, shiny face. She is all that and more. I cannot thank her enough for pulling me out from self-pity to self-confidence that I portray now. So thank you so much, Ram, for being the support that you are. She's a vegan who dabbles in writing fiction, and her stories usually involve humans trying to find meaning in a world and in disconnect with its animal inhabitants. She's an eco child, a friend to all creatures, and a defender of the meek and mute beings of the wild. And she's my lifeline.
What an introduction. I mean, Penmancy would not be the way it is right now if Kajal is not there. So it's a collaborative effort, and of course, writers are there. That's what makes Penmancy. Of course, readers are very important as well. And so we came up with this anthology for our anniversary, and I think it is quite successful. And all right, so thank you. Hi, everyone. I just babbled without even saying anything. Anyway, my story is titled Two Pilgrims, and it's about two men. They are in their 50s who set out on a pilgrimage to a holy place called the Shrine of Saint Pius, seeking redemption. Okay, and so this search for salvation is revealed along the way by their actions and behaviors, which are contradictory to each other in every way. So this story basically, actually, the plot is not mine. Like most of my stories, this plot is was also given by my partner, husband. Okay, so I just I think I thank him for giving me such a beautiful plot line, and actually we talk about it, and basically before I wrote this story, the ending was already written. So I'm so grateful for that. And so this story is basically asking the readers to know the meaning of worship, or what is service to God really, and want us to evaluate our actions, our behaviors, our words, whether they are consistent or not consistent with each other. So I'd like to read the passage of the story, because this plays the most important role in achieving how the story ends. Okay, so here it goes. And then God said to Archangel Gabriel, "Behold the fallen leaf, that yellow one, being blown about by the wanton wind. He alone is worth more than 1,000 greens hanging on the tree." So this passage alone can give the readers a glimpse of what the story is all about. Two pilgrims, after all, and at the end, it will give us some, make us contemplate of how we live our life. So this is it, and hopefully the readers will like this story, and among all the other stories as well. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Anirban, for being here. We are so glad to be for you to be here with us. Okay, all right, that's it.
Thank you so much, Ram. And it's actually a very contemplative story, which kind of asks very valid questions about our identity and the importance of the spiritual force or the spiritual light that we call God, and how do we perceive them. So I think it's a very, very beautiful piece. I'm also, a tiny part of this anthology, and which makes me extremely proud to participate in this journey with all you wonderful writers who have, contributed to the stories and made it one big, book, which kind of, doesn't look like different stories. It looks like a continuation from one to the other, because it's all threaded together so beautifully. I'm going to read out a small excerpt from my book. So the story that I wrote was Behind the Bars, and it is a story of two people who are contrasting in nature. One is a happy-go-lucky young boy, and the other one has been in behind bars for the last 9 years, and how they kind of perceive life as they know, and what is going to be their future. So the younger one says, "Do you know why Bishan never speaks?" I inquired from another inmate during my daily job at the Wicker workshop. He threw me an unconcerned shrug that translated as, "Who cares?" "He must have spoken to someone at some point of time," I insisted. The chap could care less. This time he threw in a lateral lip purse, something to the likes of, maybe, I don't know. "Do you know who he murdered?" "He murdered someone?" The chap was even more alarmed than I was when I'd heard that the first time. Okay, so he was not the best person to have had this discussion with. It was time for me to shut up indeed. So basically in this particular passage itself, you will get a sense of how this person perceives the other person, that he knows the truth that the other person is a murderer, but the other person is so closed and confined that he has never let the other inmates know what was his crime when he was in the, even he was behind bars for the last 9 years. So out of this discovery, both of these characters kind of find their journey and how they kind of challenge each other to find out what is their destiny going to be eventually. Both of them are in jail. Their destiny is kind of sealed, basically. They have been charged of murder. They are going to die someday, but they're just trying to find a meaning as to why certain things happen in our life. And do we really have control over the things that we do? In hindsight, we always do seem that we could have done things differently. But what do we do when we are actually in a fix? We are going to die eventually. So this is what basically the story talks about. And I'm very, very proud and happy that this book came out right at the right time. We did want it to be released in March, but due to the epidemic, we had to kind of postpone it. But we're so happy that this came out. I'd want everyone to please pick up your books and show it to our readers so that they would know what they're going to be looking for. So this is our beautiful book. The cover has been beautifully designed. It's a very simplistic design, and it has all these different colors of leaf, which kind of represent the different shades of the stories that it brings. I would really, really like to thank our publishers, Half Baked Beans, again, for all the support and encouragement that they have lent over this journey. And lastly, but never, never, never any less than anything, Anirban, I really am grateful that you took time out today to help us, to encourage us, to support us. It means a lot to us, and we'll be looking forward to your next publications. Thank you so much.
The pleasure was all mine. Fantastic, to be amongst, authors, and especially such an enthusiastic bunch. I feel like, headmaster of a school, and giving out marks for good handwriting, 5 extra marks for good handwriting. I've read some of your, I've read the book. I've loved the stories. Some I've loved more than the others, of course. Everyone has their favorites, but I'm not going to mention names. मैं फंसने वाला नहीं हूँ. So let's just say the stories were wonderful, and it's a great collection of short stories. I hope people across India buy and support this, this endeavor by Penmansi and Half Baked Beans. So thank you for having me over. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. Wishing you a very good evening. And I hope our readers love our small little effort, our debut effort. And looking forward to many, many more successes with you all. Thank you so much. A wonderful evening to you all.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kajal.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Kajal. Thank you.